Hi, I'm Greta Oliver. Welcome to the EducateU podcast, your roadmap to learning tips, techniques, and strategies to enable your student to successfully navigate the road to and through higher education. Hello, today's guest on the state of student loan forgiveness and student financial aid, a segment of actually the second season of EducateU, is Tony Jackson. Now, first of all, I want everybody to know that Tony Jackson is the real money coach. He's an experienced educator with a passion for empowerment, the founder of Real Money Coach, LLC. His financial education firm delivers curricula to traditionally underserved populations, while his financial services company, the Tony Jackson Agency, assists clients with wealth building strategies. He is highly sought after, a presenter and trainer, and is the author of Increase, Protect, and Dominate Your Money, a practical guide for money management and wealth planning. And he is the host of the Real Money Coach broadcast, which is an educational series which is airing weekly on Facebook Live and YouTube, or wherever you view your podcast. Today, he will be sharing information about the state of student loan forgiveness and what's going on in the world of student financial aid. This is a question that is always being answered, or we need the answer to, right? We never know. We can never get on top of student financial aid, but we definitely will try to do so. Please join me in welcoming Tony Jackson back to EducateU. Tony, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Greta. Thank you so much. Congratulations on season 2.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. People really don't understand the amount of work that goes into doing a weekly show, weekly broadcast, podcast, whatever you may be doing. So kudos to you.
Thank you so much. I'm following in your footsteps.
Well, we all trying, right? Trying to get it
Absolutely.
right and get it into as many platforms as possible so that more people can get the information like what you're sharing with the college roadmap and in your university here on YouTube and Facebook and all the places that you're at. So thank you for what you're doing.
No problem. Thank you. So I'm one of those moms. I have adult children. They have loans. Three of my 4 have student loans, and they want to know, and I also want to know, what's going on with student loans, Tony?
Everybody, it's that it was so hot in the news for a while there, especially, and I think some of that was by design prior to the midterm elections, and then not as much information is being disseminated about it. But just real quick, the student loan forgiveness for certain income levels, can have $10,000 of their student loan forgiven. And then if they receive the Pell grant, they can get additional $10,000, so $20,000 forgiven. And what has happened to kind of bring things current is there's been a lot of lawsuits, and some lawsuits the Biden administration, Department of Education won, but there's a couple lawsuits that kind of it actually paused them taking, they were still taking loan applications, forgiveness applications, and then another one came through and actually paused the whole thing. And the interesting thing to me, Dr. Greta, about it is that the one lawsuit that was filed that actually the judge actually put a stop, halted everything, it was filed by 2 borrowers.
Wow.
That was the thing that was interesting is, as a borrower, why would I file a lawsuit against this program? But as it turns out, one of them had just paid off their student loans.
Okay.
So it was a little bit of like, hey, wait a minute.
Hey, I paid mine, right?
I paid mine. Why are we doing this?
Yes.
And so this particular judge did rule in favor. And so now we're going through all the legalities of it. And just to kind of put a timeline out, one of the things that happened when this new lawsuit that paused everything is that they extended the moratorium on paying student loans back. So it was extended until June 30th, kind of at the latest, because what is happening now is that they filed the different briefs as they're going through these different processes. So what happened is the Biden administration the Department of Education, they filed a brief that was due January 4th of 2023. Now, the other legal team has until, well, just a few days, they have until January 27th to file a rebuttal against the briefs that was filed by the Biden administration. I'm not an attorney, but this is like it's back and forth, right? And so once they file their rebuttal against, whatever the Biden administration has filed on June or January 4th, the Biden administration then has until February 15th to respond to that. And so then once that has done, then I guess we go between a panel of judges and decide what's going to happen in terms of the program.
Okay, so right now it's just like people put in their argument forth, and then other people saying what their argument is, and then they get another chance.
Yeah, so it's back and forth with these legal documents, and then eventually it'll go before the panel of judges that will decide. Well, one of the things to keep in mind in terms of the date, I just talked about June 30th was the date that the moratorium was done. Well, what's actually stated in the extension of not having to pay your payments is that it is your first payment is due 60 days after the court decision is rendered. So for example, if the court's decision is rendered on March 1st, then that's all of March, all of April, and now payments are due again actually in May. So if nothing does happen before, say, April 30th, then or April 1st, then we're right back to that June 30th date. So it could come a month before, but or even earlier, if they decide, right away after this last briefing and documents are filed on the 15th. So that's what's going on. But my thing is this. My thing is I tell people this is that most people, if you look at the average student loan debt that's out there, undergrad, graduate school, I mean, you're talking, 40, 50, and in grad school, many of them are over 100,000 on average, not everybody, but on average. You're getting maybe 10 or 20,000 of that forgiven. You still got that other, you got 50,000, you still got that other 30,000, you still got that other. So don't think that this forgiveness is going to wipe all your debt away. It's going to be a portion of it. And I think that's the other caution in terms of borrowing money for school too, especially if we don't want to run up the debt to go to school with the hopes that, man, this is going to be forgiven. We definitely don't want to do that. We definitely don't want to do that. Because we see and when you think about it, a $10,000 or $20,000 forgiveness is not a whole lot of money. And if we're having this type of fight over this, do you think that your whole 50 or your 100,000 is going to be forgiven? Probably not. Now we know that there's other programs if you work for a nonprofit and some of those type of things for so long. There's some other forgiveness programs out there as well. But hang on and be prepared to start paying, right? So absolutely, you got to pay something. In the case of my kids, thank God. I mean, theirs aren't that high because they've been paying them all along. So except for one. One of them isn't. The other two are. That's a very good point because I tell people all the time, especially if you're trying to get a house, sometimes it's better to be on a payment plan to have everything in deferment. Because I mean, it's how we say, what's the old adage? A dream deferred is not a dream denied. A debt deferred is not a debt forgiven, right? It sure isn't. You're just pushing it off. You're just pushing it off, and so it's important to stay on it, and you can really make some great leeway while the interest rates and everything is locked down. If you're paying on that principal during this whole time, and we're going on. Now you're talking about this is 3 years since it was first done by the previous administration. Absolutely, they were halting payments, and it keeps getting extended. And so I know mine. I made sure that I was on them because first of all, I hated the fact that they had loans, but one of those situations where they had loans. So
just like a lot of, parents in this world, you have kids that had to take loans, or you didn't know how to prepare properly so that they didn't have to take loans. And so, when they didn't have jobs and they were supposed to write in or contact and defer things, my kids two of the three, I wish I could say all, but two of the three did. When they weren't working, or if they were in between jobs, or whatever their situation was, they did at least, do their due diligence and take care of that, so that they're not necessarily behind the 8 ball, and they were well prepared in their minds that they would have to pay it back. And so this Sutton student loan forgiveness, was kind of like just like a wonderful little opportunity that might happen. But it's a lot of people that aren't in that situation.
I'd say it's not even frosty on the cake, but it's a little flour on the cake.
Yeah, just
right?
a
little bit of, and so just to encourage people, and it's part of me, I kind of question some of the states, because there were states that also filed against it, and the state's claim was that it was going to help hurt their revenue. That didn't make much sense to me, because if you're paying these student loans back, there's not a whole lot that, I mean, how is that going to hurt the state revenue?
Absolutely.
I think it was more a political type of thing than anything else, in terms of that. So it's, again, we just got to kind of stay on top of it, watch how things are going. In terms of, with the student loan forgiveness. But I do have a couple other things that I think makes sense to share. Some good news. In this last spending bill, fiscal year 2023, that was passed by Congress, signed into law on December 29th by President Biden, there's two things in relation to student loans, or not student loans, but student financial aid. Number one is that they raised the Pell Grant. So now the Pell Grant is actually, they raised it by $500. So it's now $7,395 is the Pell Grant amount. So this is the largest increase they've had in the Pell Grant amount, believe it or not, in 20 years. I mean, and so it's interesting, because if we look at the growth of tuition, that percent has been going up quite a bit. But student aid, student financial aid, need aid has not grown to the same pace as the cost of college, which then also leads to the fact that's why we have so much student loan debt out there.
Absolutely.
All right. And then the other thing that was in this last spending bill, which is kind of interesting, we haven't seen how it's going to flush out yet, Dr. Greta. But you know how if you're working for a company and they have a 401k and you put money in, when you put money in, the employer matches that money, right? So with this new bill, what they're going to allow to happen is, if instead of you putting money into the 401k, you're using it to pay down your student loans, that will qualify for a match from your employer.
Wow. Okay.
So if I'm paying, I'll just pick a number, $50 a month on my student loans, that's $600. They will count that $600, and then the employer will match that $600 payment and put it into the 401k.
Wow. Now that's something to jump up and down about.
That's pretty cool.
For sure. It really is.
It will help people to pay down their student loan and still be building some retirement funds at the same time, because of it now qualifies as a match from your employer.
That's wonderful.
So we'll see how they flush it out, how they, because that was just passed, like I said, in December. Of course, the IRS is going to have to do all their rulings and, what have you, go through all that because my question is, okay, how do you monitor that? Those type of things. What's going to be, what type of proof will the employee need to give the employer to get the match? And it'll be interesting to see how employers react to it as well, because it's not money that's going into the plan, which wasn't their plan anyway. But certainly, I think that's a new development that's worthy to keep an eye on. It's a good thing.
It is a good thing. I'm so thankful you told us about those two wonderful things that have happened. I'd be interested in seeing how they work that 401k matching too. It's going to be a lot of paperwork and to go along with that, to make sure people are honestly paying their student loans and that match is actually made. But that is good news.
Well, and perhaps some employers will set it up where they'll deduct the student loan payment out of the paycheck and send that in like they would other type of
insurance policies or payments.
Yeah,
right.
It could be that way, but somehow there's going to have to be some documentation to the employer that employee is making that student loan payment so that they can do the matching funds.
Right. And that probably would be a very good way to do it, actually, with the payroll deduction. That way they know what's deducted and they know where it's going. And then, of course, the organization would be aware of it because they're doing it. So, I mean, that makes sense. So maybe that won't be the way they do it.
Right, because it makes too much sense. It's common sense. Absolutely. Tony Dungy says common sense ain't common, right?
You know what? They need to have us on those boards so we can make these decisions for them, right?
Absolutely.
That's
all good stuff.
You know what, Tony? What's going on? Okay, maybe nothing. All right. You're not on mute, right? Okay, well, you better
No, I can hear you. Hopefully you can hear me.
Good. I can hear you. Okay, I got a sudden scary moment, but that's okay. I have some of them on here. So
hey, with technology, it happens to us, right?
Oh, all the time. And you have to see our new episode this week that's going to be about AI and artificial intelligence and all that. So it's very exciting as well. New technology is always evolving, coming and showing up. You got to figure out what's going on so you can stay on top of this stuff, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. You can Google something, and the next thing you know, every time you go back to Google, whatever you Googled on, there's special offers. Next thing it appears on your Facebook page. Right. It's like this artificial intelligence is gone. Right.
Well, that's Big Brother, really. This Big Brother, really.
That's Big Brother watching. That's Big
absolutely. So, you have to be a certain age to understand that.
Right.
But thank you so much for coming on and telling us all of this good stuff. It's going to prepare us later down the road, so we'll at least know what's going on and what the state of, financial aid or student loan forgiveness is, where we are, and what we can expect. And when we can expect to hear things.
Which, by the way, the increase in the Pell Grant is for the new school year coming up, 23-24. So if you're in spring semester, don't be looking for that extra $500 yet.
Absolutely.
It won't happen until the fall.
Right. Cool. All right. Thank you so much for
Thanks for having me.
Information. Always good to see you on EducateU.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us today on EducateU. If you wish, you can send me your questions or comments about the college going process or the podcast content by sending an email to Dr. Greta at gretaoliverconsulting.com. Also, beginning each week after the podcast airs, check for a companion blog on my website's blog page at gretaoliverconsulting.com. My book, College Roadmap, Essential Tips for First-Time College Students and Their Families, is available for sale on Amazon.com. Join us next week for another tip or strategy to make the road to higher education easier for your student.